What's up guys, welcome to the screen comparison video. This is going to be between the Sony Xperia Z on the left, the LG Nexus 4 in the middle, and the Samsung Galaxy S3 on the right. Now before I start this off, I just want to run down some of the specs. The Xperia Z, guys, comes in at 5 inches with a TFT panel. It's got a 1080p resolution and a PPI of 441. The Nexus 4, guys, has a true HD IPS Plus display with a resolution of 1280 by 768. Comes in at 4.7 inches and has a PPI of 318. The Galaxy S3 is Super AMOLED HD with a resolution of 1280 by 720p. Comes in at 4.8 inches and has a PPI of 306. So other than that, guys, I just want to show you some of my settings. I've turned up the brightness on all of them. They're all running on their full brightness. You can see here, everything is maxed out. Brightness. You can see everything is maxed out here. I've also changed the wallpaper to be the same. So we can just see the differences right here on the wallpaper. And you can see that the Galaxy S3 is definitely more vivid with its Super AMOLED HD panel. Some might say it's a little bit too vivid, but I think it's kind of nice. The colors are really saturated. You know, everything pops. It looks really nice. The Nexus 4 doesn't pop quite as much, but it still looks very nice. Everything looks really sharp. Over here on the Sony Xperia Z, I've got to say it looks a bit washed out. If I put that one in the middle, just so it's in the camera, and put it versus the Galaxy S3 for a second, you can just see there is a haze. I think that's the best way to describe it. A haze over the image, and it kind of makes the whole thing look a little bit washed out in comparison to the Nexus 4 and the Galaxy S3. I mean, if you look at it, it definitely looks the most washed out, which is interesting nonetheless. Now, I can't really show you the menus and stuff like that because all the menus are different. They're running their own versions of TouchWiz, and there's a lot of gray used here, which doesn't help. But let's test out some pictures. So we're going to, well, firstly, we'll open up Chrome and we'll check out the whites. So we'll close all these tabs and just get the white image over here, or the gray image. I mean, that's Chrome, guys, and you can see the differences right there. I've just, so this is all using the same Chrome. You can see the differences here. Definitely, well, it's pure black over here. This one is a gray, and this one is kind of in between. It's definitely interesting to see the differences. If we open up a new tab here, check out the whites. The camera doesn't really like showing the whites, but from looking at that, I've got to say I think the Nexus 4 whites look the best. Still looks a little bit washed out over here, and the whites don't display quite as bright on an AMOLED display, and you can definitely see that right there. I know I haven't got much white going on there, really. You can see it there. It's definitely not quite as bright as these two, but then this one does look a tad washed out. So yeah. Let's load some images. Okay, guys, so I've loaded up an image. It's all the same one. It's literally the same image on each display, so we can see how it differs. We'll just zoom in so it's a bit more full screen here. And straight away, you can notice the Galaxy S3 has deeper blues, deeper greens, but I've got to say it does look a little bit unnatural to me. The greens look too green. The blue looks a bit too blue. Over here on the Xperia Z, the colors do look quite nice. It looks a lot more accurate. You can still see that haze of, I don't know what it is, but there's still kind of a filter over it, a little haze that kind of makes it look a little bit washed out. And on the left here, the Nexus 4, I think looks the best. I really do. There's no haze. It looks very sharp. The details are there. The colors look accurate. If I zoom into the blue here, you can see it just looks a little bit better. I mean, the Galaxy S3 is very deep blue, and it's nice for some things. Sometimes the oversaturation doesn't do it any favors, but yeah. One thing to know about the Xperia Z, guys, is it has a Bravia engine, and whenever you're looking at pictures or videos, it kicks in, and it actually makes the image look a hell of a lot better. I really like the Bravia stuff. It's a shame they didn't do it throughout the whole OS, because the whole OS looks a little bit washed out. Again, if I go back to the home screen, you'll see that. Definitely looks washed out compared to the other two, but when you're looking at pictures or videos, the Bravia engine kicks in, and it looks absolutely fantastic. So what I'm going to do now, guys, is load up the same video on YouTube, and we'll see how it looks. Okay, guys, so I've got my clip loaded up in YouTube. It's the Big Buck Bunny animation at 1080p. And before I start it, I just wanted to stop here and show you the difference in black levels. That you can see they're all at the same point, 0, 0, 0, 0. And look at the difference in black levels. It's really, really different. You can see these two up here look pretty damn black. The Galaxy S3 has the best black levels due to it being the Super AMOLED HD. It produces brilliant black levels. The Nexus 4 doesn't look bad at all in comparison. You can still see it's black. But the Sony Xperia Z down here has that haze that I've been talking about throughout the whole video. You can definitely see it. It looks washed out. The black levels are quite horrible, I have to say myself. I do not like the black levels on this display. Now, I'll hit play on all of these. And when the video starts playing, the Xperia, well, the Bravia engine kicks in on the Xperia, and I've got to say, I really like the Bravia engine, and when the video is playing, I think it looks fantastic. Another thing to note is it's a 1080p screen down here, so it might be getting an advantage when it comes to that. Brightness levels, I've got to say, the Xperia Z looks very bright in comparison to the other two. The Nexus 4 looks like it loses on the brightness scale for sure. Galaxy S3 has the most saturated colors. You can just see the difference there in the black levels again. Again, there you can see the haze that I was talking about. Again, the colors do look washed out over here on the Xperia Z. I do think it does look a little bit sharper, probably due to the being 1080p. It could be just a placebo effect because I know it is 1080p. I don't know. But yeah. The Bravia engine, it definitely is on. You can really see it doing some work, and it really does make videos look quite nice on the Xperia screen. The only problem is it has that haze on it, and the colors look a little bit washed out. But other than that, it is quite nice to watch videos on. Galaxy S3 again has the most saturated colors, as we know. Let's leave this playing for a little bit. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. You know, I could just be being wrong, but I don't think I am. I think the Xperia Z definitely has that haze over it. Okay guys, this is going to be my last test. I've loaded up the Verge on each of these devices just again to check out the colors and the contrast ratios. And I'm pretty sure you'll already see the Galaxy S3 is the most saturated, the highest contrast, followed by the Nexus 4. And coming in dead last is the Sony Xperia Z, which looks completely washed out next to these other two devices, you have to admit. If I just zoom into this area here on each device, you can definitely see it there. It's the Galaxy S3 wins in terms of saturation and contrast by a mile, and then it's the Nexus 4 followed by the Xperia Z. Saying that, the Galaxy S3 might be slightly oversaturated and the colors aren't quite real. But if we look between these two, and if I zoom out again, you'll definitely see the difference I'm talking about. I've been talking about it the whole video. It definitely has that haze over the top, and you can see it there. And if I bring the Galaxy S3 in again, it makes it look even more evident. In terms of who's got the best screen, this is going to come down to kind of preference. The Sony Xperia Z, I don't think is even in the running. I just think that haze, that horrible kind of white film that's over it, ruins the display. It looks great when you're looking at images with the Bravia engine, but that haze kind of ruins it for me. The Nexus 4 doesn't have that haze, but isn't as saturated as the Galaxy S3. Saying that, the Galaxy S3 may be slightly too oversaturated. I don't know. So it's going to come down to preference, but it's definitely between the Nexus 4 and the Galaxy S3. I just want to do one more test here, guys. And well, we know the Xperia Z has a 1080p screen, so we're going to see if we can see any pixels or if it just looks any sharper at all on these on the display. So if we zoom into this word flights here, what we're looking for, guys, is can we see any difference in the flight word? Is there any difference in the sharpness? Does it look any different? Can you tell that's a 1080p screen? I've got to say no, I don't think you can. It definitely isn't worth it 1080p if you're going to lose the saturation and contrast that you seem to be losing. It just doesn't look as good, and I've got to put it down as being the loser between all these devices. I don't think you can. I don't think you can say differently, guys. I mean, let me know your opinion in the comments, but in my opinion, in my honest opinion, I do think the Nexus 4 screen is the best, followed by the Galaxy S3, followed by the Xperia Z. I'm picking the Nexus 4 because I think the Galaxy S3 is slightly oversaturated, whereas I think the Nexus 4 gets it spot on and looks fantastic. But yeah, let me know, guys. Disappointed by the Sony Xperia Z for sure.